blinds or no?
No, not yet. I want to keep a little bit of light.
Okay.
You want a beer?
No, I'm okay. Those are all for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Chris says he's been spelling your name wrong the whole time then.
So it's him. Okay.
Someone's been doing
That's
it.
So hey guys, welcome to number 60 of From the Ground Up podcast. If you guys haven't seen, we did momentarily change our name to Corn Hub because of corn snakes.
Why'd you have to bring this up?
The whole Python thing, we needed to really mix it up. So
no, that was all a terrible, terrible April Fool's
Melissa
joke.
didn't like the joke,
that
but I
was
enjoyed
so
it. So
inappropriate. We will never change our name to Corn Hub. That I still can't believe he did it. And if you missed it, you missed it because I deleted all the evidence, at least on Instagram.
Well, happy April Fools and Easter to everyone.
Okay.
And so we have shirts available. You guys all know that. Theportcitypythons.com, all that good stuff. The Amazon link will be below. Trying to get through this real quick. Today we have Justin KOBYLKA from KOBYLKA Reptiles on today. So Justin, can you give us a quick overview of how your business got started?
Okay, so yeah, I love reptiles from the beginning. Yeah, that's everybody's story. But it actually kind of, as far as the business side of it, kind of got started when I was in college. I was keeping all these different snakes in my room, my dorm room. So I was at a boarding school, and we were allowed to have one snake. Well, I had like 20 something snakes in my dorm room. And whenever we'd have like any kind of inspection, I just roll a bunch of blankets over the cages and hope that nobody noticed. But eventually I got caught with all these snakes in the room, and the college said, look, you got to get rid of them or we're kicking you out. And that was a pretty big wake-up call. But it was actually the biology department of the school let me start keeping my snake. They gave me my own room in the biology department because they were just impressed with what I was doing. And that's where I had to start hatching my very first snakes. They were actually milk snakes and king snakes and stuff, that sort of thing. Back then, that was like 2003 or so. And I just loved it so much, man. I dreamed about doing this forever, And
so how did you get into ball pythons from there? So
I was having some success with the corn snakes and everything, but even then they were $30 each or whatever. You couldn't make a living on that. And back then ball pythons were just kind of getting started. You had Ralph Davis and Peter Call and Kevin McCurley, and these guys were the rock stars of ball pythons. And I just wanted to be like them when I grew up. And so seeing piebald and everything was probably the big push into it. And I bought my first piebald, I think 2004 maybe, and it was it cost a fortune back then. And it was no looking back after that.
Now, if you were in the same shoes, if you were, say, 21 years old right now in our current reptile market, how would you plan to get started?
And would you have done the same thing?
Yeah.
Or man, that's tough. We have a very mature market now by comparison. So back then, anybody could buy any ball python and do great.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore. It actually takes a little bit of work because we have real mature players who have a significant market share that you have to compete with. I still think I would do it similar. I think that's what my big keys to success was. I stumbled into it a little bit as I bought all these recessives initially, and I did not chase, partly because I didn't have the budget, but I didn't chase whatever codom was hot at any given moment. I never went after that, never invested in a codom ever. And partly that's because all my initial purchases were made by my uncle. He was investing in my business. He saw how passionate I was about it. And he's like, I'm going to buy you these first few snakes to get you started. And he said, I'm not going to buy any snake that's not just, I don't think is absolutely beautiful. And he's not a snake person. He just wanted, he didn't want to spend money on anything that wasn't beautiful. So he bought lavender, clown, piebalds, all those really cool, high-end recessives. Back then they were $25,000 or more each, some of them. But he refused to buy fires and yellow bellies and cinnamons and all the stuff that were almost the same price, but they were codoms. He's like, they look normals to me. And he didn't. Neither of us knew it, but he was sidestepping a huge landmine that a lot of people get caught up in early on. So we were building, we were buying building blocks that lasted. We're like mutual funds of ball pythons essentially. So, yeah.
I mean, now I feel like everyone has that mindset. I don't know if they got it from you, but at least in ball pythons now, everyone's clowning pied out. So,
Yeah.
what do you
Totally.
do if you're someone maybe not in your position where you're right now at the top? What do you do if you are a younger breeder trying to differentiate yourself?
That's really tough. That's really tough because it's hard to differentiate. If that's what I talk about, a mature market. It's hard to differentiate against players who have really, really deep collections. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like an example would be some upstart, NBA team trying to go against the Warriors. Not only do they have good players, you could have a few good players, but they have got a deep bench of every one of those players that can come in and be a starter on another team, just about.
Right.
And when you're competing with people who have built a collection over 15 years, there's no successful way to get into it. You're going to have to get into it with that long game, putting the animals on the shelf and building that long term. So there was a time you could get rich quick with ball pythons. That time is not anymore.
Mm-hmm. So for a little bit of reference, what were those first animals that you invested in as far as the lavenders? What were they worth at that time? What are they worth now in comparison to some of those fires and some of the things like that?
Okay, so the lavender albino we bought, it was a breeder sized male, and at the time they were selling for like 25. I think we paid 30 grand for ours. And the first pied was 10, I think, and it was a female. Males were more. First clown was $14,000 or something like that. It was just crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now all those base genes, you can get all of them for under $500, easily. But we by putting all these different combos in there and the fact that they're reproducing, you can definitely still do incredible stuff with those genes. Those genes are as hot as ever, pieds and clowns especially, hot as ever. So it's pretty cool to see how it's changed.
Do you feel like is it getting away from, say, trying to get morphs out of West African stuff like that? Or is that fewer and farther between?
Yeah, so it's hard. It used to be that was the way to win, and you'd buy this new codom or find this new codom, you prove it, and you'd sell them all for 30,000 a piece, and do fantastic. But there are fewer and fewer really amazing snakes coming out of West Africa, right? Because they've mostly been found. Most of the crazy ones, the ones that are left are very subtle. And that doesn't mean they can't be great, because some of our best morphs start out subtle, and you combine it with something that has explosive results. But on morphs like that, you have to put years of work in to prove that whatever you want for it is worth it. You might get the next, subtle morph from Africa, you name it. And nowadays people are very skeptical of that. And until you make something that can actually compete with what all the crazy stuff we have for cheap on the market, you can't really charge the big bucks like it used to be. I think the cool stuff these days can be actually found in collections, popped out, because we're doing an insane amount of ball python breeding here in America, right, and all over the world. And we're not, in the wild, it's a natural selection, right? So random. We're not doing it random. We're putting weird stuff with weird stuff every day. And even though we try not to inbreed, there is a significant amount of, generational breeding where it's not really random at all anymore. If something's going to pop out, it's going to pop out in captivity. The next crazy thing. I really believe that.
Right. And now we're getting to the point where it's pretty normal to have 5 gene animals now. So do you think, is that also shifting as far as putting the most amount of genes in an animal and it gets muddied up and maybe?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope people are getting away from that mindset. I think for the most part, yeah, people are realizing that there's just too many ways to make a white snake. So let's stop throwing genes at things. They're all turning white, in the end. They're all losing their pattern. And that's why you've seen, I think, the shift to the recessives a lot, because it allows you to put more genes in there, do interesting things, still have the hardness factor, without making a snake that gets totally, washed out in the end. And that's all. We also had a resurgence of genes that darken snakes. It used to be no one wanted the dark genes, right? Now the dark genes are seen as a way to add them in there and keep really nice contrast, really nice blacks. That's kind of, the market's changed in that sense, and it's been good. I think it's been good for the market.
So if you could explain, at least you seem to have a lot more vision than the normal keeper as far as putting your stuff together and, just the creativity. So do you have a certain idea of what's going to pop out? Like, does a black pastel go with a yellow snake? Does it? I mean, it seems to do similar things. What's kind of your vision and thought behind these kinds of things?
I think it's a lot of experimentation. I guess somehow I have a way of kind of predicting a little bit. I can't get in other people's heads, so I don't know how different I think than other people. You know what I'm saying? I know the results, but I don't. In a way, what I do intuitively seems to me like everybody should be able to do it, but that may not be the case. I think my biggest advantage that I probably have, as far as, because I started, people had massive, incredible collections before I even had one ball python. There should be no reason why I should catch up, right? There should be no reason anybody ever catches up to some of these people who have incredible snakes. But it's a combination of going your own way, going in a unique way and proving that it's good. And then when people sign on to it, you're already down that road a long ways. That's one part of it. The other thing I think I do that other people don't really do is I try to think more than one step ahead. Most people look at, they think, okay, this is what I'm gonna try to make this year. Okay, well, now I'm gonna try to take one more step. Where I tend to think of, okay, this is what I'm doing this year. And when that happens, what am I going to want to do after that? And I'll go ahead and start it now. So, you name, say I want to make say I want to do the Pompeii, which is that new one I just made. Okay. Well, when I'm trying to make the Pompeii, I'm already thinking what's going to go good with the Pompeii when I make it, because I want to have that ready
when the Pompeii's are ready.
Right. As opposed to thinking of it after the fact. And then, so to me, it's always about you're working multiple lines, trying to make them cross years in the future, before as opposed to taking it one step at a time. That's the one thing I know that I do different than most people.
That makes so much sense, because now that you think about it, you're creating things because obviously females need 3 years. So you can take a significant amount of time off just by knowing what females you need to raise up to this male that you haven't even produced yet.
Right. That's what I always think. If I make what I want, what am I going to want to do next? And I just go ahead and start it before I ever even made that second step yet. Yeah.
Now there's certainly something that you need to have in order to be successful on the business end of reptiles. So how do you merge there's animal lovers and there's business people, and very few people are a good mix of those both that make you successful.
Yeah, true. That's tough. It comes down to a lot to personality. I have an advantage because my degree was in marketing. And so I had a sense for it. Although my marketing when I was in college was pretty much like newspapers, radio, and billboards, it wasn't new media. So I wasn't trained in like socials and how to do any of that stuff, but you have a general sense of just how to speak to the public in such a way that, basically rule number one is no fighting on the internet. And that's something that goes a long way. I wish most people would do that. But yeah, it's hard to have the combination of some of the different skills. It really is. And most businesses will you either have to have it or you'll have to hire for it, in order to be successful.
So do you think, at least when you're investing into a project, how much do you think of how good it's going to look, and how much do you think of the money part of it?
The money doesn't enter into it to me, because the money comes when the snake looks good. So that's all you have to focus on, really. That's all you have to focus on. I focus on how am I going to make it look hard, and how hard is it to make? How am I going to make it look, and how hard is it to make? Those are the two factors. The harder to make, the better, in my opinion, because that advantages those people who have been doing this a long time. And that advantages me. So that's why part of the reason why I love going for those multi-recessives and things like that is because it's just like a speed bump in everybody else's path, kind of thing. And that allows me to kind of keep my edge. As far as price goes, I don't know. I try not to think about that. It isn't really a factor. You just make the amazing snakes and it'll come. So.
So when you were first getting started out, I know it's kind of tough. When you first get started out, those big guys can be like either intimidating or they don't take you seriously. So, I mean, how'd you get from 0 to at least, 50 to where now you're at maybe 99? You know?
That's a good
community
question.
wise. Yeah.
That's a really good question. Most of the people in our industry are really good people for the most part. They're not all good business people, but as that's been a hard thing for me, actually, probably in the last year or so. I've had to come to grips with the fact that all these people that I really, really admired, and I wanted nothing more than for these people to like me. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be just like them. And then as you achieve a certain level of success, you realize that they're not really your friends. They're in business. You know what I'm saying? And that's and not only are they not your friends, they might actually actively working against you when there's a threat there. You know, so that's tough, man. That's tough to come to grips with that. Because this is a business, there's money involved. It's understandable, you know, really. But there's also some really good people who have just been fantastic all throughout, you know, and really, really great to deal with.
I think it's interesting how you're very big, socially on the internet, but you're not to the level of, it doesn't seem like you go to many shows. It doesn't seem like you vend many shows. So what's your idea behind that?
So it's twofold. Number one is I have a big family. I have 4 kids and 1 on the way. So, and it's just not fair to leave the wife on many weekends a year to fend for them by herself. So I've got to deal with the family side of it. The other part of it is I have a personal life and all that. I try to maintain that. But something early on that I thought would be kind of cool is that just there's something about having a certain mystique. You know, it's okay to be on socials, but maybe not so much and not so in your face at every show that people think they have you completely figured out. And that comes down to marketing, I think, a little bit. There's something to be said for having just a certain mystique about you where you don't necessarily tell everything and show everything that's going on in your life. So maybe not in everybody's faces all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw you Tinley a few years back, and it seemed like you had animals, but all of them said not for sale on them.
Right. You know, the thing is the internet will sell way more animals than any show ever will. But the reason why I've started doing Tinley is because it is a chance to, to kind of interact with people across the table, which is nice because people know where to find you and then come to you. That's been a really good experience. But people do most of their shopping at home these days. Really, the shows to me have been more about here's a chance to meet people and for people to see the kind of quality, the kind of projects, and just maybe walk away with an oh wow, you know. I've sold very few animals at shows over the years. Almost every good sale I've had has come from a contact that just give a card away or whatever. And that's really what it's about.
So, I mean, I see that I guess you could say you're taking YouTube a little bit more seriously now.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans in the future with your YouTube channel?
I mean, I don't know. It's been tough. I'll tell you what I love about YouTube is the number one way to interact with brand new people and to expose new people to our industry. And that kind of came to me by surprise. I got into YouTube. A buddy of mine just said, "Hey, you guys show some of these snakes." This is years and years ago. My very first video it's basically a 10 seconds. I'm like, here's a spider ball python. I don't even show my face. Here's a spider ball python. But the amount of response that you can get from that, it's because it's a moving picture. It's incredible. It's pretty high. And then over the years, I kind of gave up on YouTube for a while. It was just so much work. YouTube's a lot more work than the other socials. I can't give up on it for a while, but then I started doing Tinley, and everybody would be like, "Hey, I first discovered either I discovered ball pythons by watching your YouTube channel, or I didn't know about you except through YouTube." Right. And I started realizing that YouTube actually brought me more first-time buyers than any other platform by far. It wasn't even close. All these other platforms, people are already in the industry; they're just stumbling onto you. But YouTube is completely different. And that made me go back to it. But the big thing that I think most people don't realize about YouTube is that social media these days is kind of the big equalizer, right? It gives everybody a voice. You know, if you see on good or bad, right? You
Too
have
right, too
Facebook,
much
Instagram.
sometimes.
Right. So you have Instagram, Facebook, and you have the guy who, bought 4-ball pythons and he's never bred one. And he can be as loud a voice as somebody who has been in this for 15, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? He can be preaching the truth and everybody thinks it's amazing. And the guy who actually has the knowledge and has the experience is like, man, I can't compete with all these newbies, who know it all.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's easy to be on those platforms, but YouTube is different. You can't fake it on YouTube. You really can't. Because it's in your face, you're talking, you're in the moment, you're not have to, it's all scripted. Not just that, the amount of effort that goes into making a quality video versus a quality Instagram post. It's a big equalizer. It is an unequalizer. It allows people who actually have the resources, have the time, have the experience to show that to the public, where you can't really do it on the other platforms really in the same way.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird thing where it both shows it can show you in your best light, but also can make you very vulnerable. How many times has someone said there's no hide for your snake, you need more substrate, or dumb little things.
No, that's the big fear. I think that's probably the number one thing that keeps people off YouTube, is because, well, I remember back when I first started, my room was so tiny that I thought there's no way anybody's going to take me seriously, and I couldn't hide it. Again, YouTube doesn't really let you hide it. I mean, I do the best I can. I wouldn't ever paint. I would never turn. All my videos be from erect, hold still. So if I turned just slightly, they'd be like, is he in a closet? But that's how it starts. But you're right. YouTube will expose you if, good or bad. It'll expose you to the trolls or expose things you're doing wrong.
Yeah, but it's definitely a great place to where, new people find you and new people reach out to you. And that's really what it's all about. I think we get stuck really in our bubbles in this community.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
you're not
it also shows
person.
that you're a real person, and that you're relatable. Like, for example, Miguel, we were talking to Miguel at Arlington. The way he did his style is just so personable and so relatable that when we were at Arlington, we were just walking around a little bit. He had 10 times the number of people stopping him and like, oh my God, take your picture. I know you from YouTube. 10 times what I did. Even though I've been in this forever. But just, he's done a good job of just being a real person. People feel good about stopping him and feel like they know him already. And that's something that YouTube allows.
Yeah, absolutely. You were about to say something.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you ever go into the more vlog style snake stuff? Like, what would you want to do with YouTube in that way?
So vlog style, the video I just did was more that style. The issue with that is a couple things. First of all, it takes a lot more work to do that. And just, I'm the kind of person who I'm not a millennial. So when I'm in the moment, I don't ever think, oh, I got to find a way to record this. I just enjoy it, and so that requires a complete rethinking. When I'm in the moment, I got to think, I need to make this for YouTube. And that's a whole nother world that I'm trying to get used to a little bit. The other thing is that there's a little bit of a stigma that's given to people who, I don't know, like, you don't want to flaunt your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you just want to think you're cool. You just want to show off the fact that you're in another country doing that. And that brings up a whole nother level of people hating on you, not to be cliche about it, but yeah, so it goes both ways. You're trying to be the next Brian Barczyk because you're doing this. I'm like, oh, not really. But there's the other half of people who think it's the most fantastic thing they've ever seen, and they're like, do more of that because it's so great, it's so awesome to be able to see your life and see what's going on, and then you just can't please everybody. You really can't.
Yeah,
so I'm trying to do it more of a hybrid now. I think kind of in between those two.
There's gonna be bitter people that don't want to see you succeed, and then people who are gonna support you. I mean, you'll get all of it.
Right
now, I had a good question, but traveling. So you mentioned kind of traveling. We've seen you travel a little bit on your YouTube channel. So Have you
Right.
done that intentionally? Are those business / fun trips? Tell us a little
Usually
bit
they're
about
all
your travels.
business. They're all business. They have to be business to justify leaving the kids and the wife at home. So they're pretty much business. But the cool thing is that over time I've been allowed to visit a lot of different countries, and usually it's to visit different shows and to give talks and this sort of thing. And so a lot of it's paid by the promoter or whatever, which makes it extra fun and really, really cool. So I love traveling. It's one of my passions just in general. To traveling and talk about ball pythons is pretty much the perfect combination in my mind.
So I see you went to South Africa a couple times. Is that a big ball python market and reptile market in general?
So it's not a big market. It's actually a small market, but it is one of the most passionate markets. They love their reptiles in general, and they love ball pythons more than, I would say, if you did cross section, they probably love their ball pythons more than even Americans or Europeans. They love their ball pythons. They really do. The problem is that they are a very small market. There's just a certain percentage of the population there that's willing to keep snakes, and a huge percentage that never will, or not in the short term at least. But man, they know their stuff and they love their stuff, and it's really cool to visit them. It really is.
Is there a large discrepancy in a country like that between people who are maybe even wealthy enough to keep reptiles or ball pythons?
Right. It's both wealth and it's culture, in the end. But it doesn't cut, cleanly across those lines, but yeah, it's definitely a big factor for sure.
Yeah. So what other places have you visited or do you plan to visit in the future?
So I've been to China twice on business now in the last couple of years. China's amazing because they're a country that if they open up to ball pythons officially, it will just change our world forever. It'd be crazy. But right now they don't actually allow ball pythons legally unless you get a license, which is obscenely expensive. So ball pythons as pets there is just not happening in the short term. But they're working on it, and that's awesome. Indonesia, and I go to Europe every so often for the ham show and all that, and I got to go to Canada recently. So those are kind of some of the main hot spots. Ball pythons are actually pretty big in Indonesia and Malaysia too. They kind of caught on there, so pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super awesome. That's something that I wish we could do. That's why I want to get big enough to have people pay for us to go places. But
it's really fun. Yeah.
So what is what do you deem to be kind of the next thing in ball pythons in your opinion? And I hate to ask you a question like that, but
honestly, I don't think of it in that terms. I think that's a question is kind of an old way of thinking about ball pythons. I think we're kind of moving out of that stage where it comes down to what's the next hot morph or whatever. There will always be new morphs that people have to have and pay money for, but I think the success these days in the future will come more from just having making things anew in a different way, in a special way that's completely different. And that's what I try to do. Like I said, I've never really chased the Kodom of the day. And if I do buy a new Kodom or something, it's only because I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to put it into this stuff I already have and make crazy things? It's never about how can I make a bunch and make some money. That's not what it's about. So I'm the worst person to ask that question.
I kind of figured that, but I felt like I had to ask
the worst person because I don't have anything to sell you on. You know what I'm saying? That's not what it's about. But I mean, I'm excited about the things that I'm making and like the crazy changes and just mixing it up and reinventing it. I'm excited about all that. But to me, I'm excited about what I haven't seen, so I can't sell you on what I haven't seen yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to change gears a little bit, we had a good question that came up on the chat. Is your wife actually involved with the business with you?
That's a good question. She was early on. So when we got married, I was totally into ball pythons and everything. So she totally knew what she was getting into with that. Actually, I take that back. She did not know that they would ever make money. So she's like a saint because she was cool about it when it looked like it was just a expensive obsession. But nowadays she supports me, but she's not involved with, any of the care or any of that. She's involved in the sense that she gives me the time and space to do the work. So
Right. I mean, yeah, that's important,
yeah,
especially with kids and stuff like that. Just giving you the free time to do what you have to do
right.
at work.
And she's super supportive. Like, if I tell her I'm buying $100,000 worth of snakes, she doesn't think anything of it. It's like she wouldn't
Whoa.
she's totally cool with that. Well, but she knows in the end that everything is an investment, and that I'll make it work, for the family. I'm not there to lose money. I'm there to make money, and do well. So
I think
she's cool
you
with it.
proved that she can trust your judgment at this point.
Yeah, she's cool with that. So
you do have a full-time employee, right?
I do. I have one full-time and one half-time now.
Okay, so how did you, or when was the point where you were like, oh shit, I need an employee, and how did you get over that hump?
Okay, so every major change I've made has been because my wife forced me to. Really, like I quit my job and started doing ball pythons full time because she forced me to. She said, "There's just no way, you got to give one of them up," because I was killing myself,
And when was that,
and
by the way?
that was 2011, I think, maybe 12, somewhere in that zone. So it's been about 6 years doing it full time. But yeah, she was the one who made that happen, and then it was exactly the same thing when, even though I gone full time, I could no longer handle everything on my own. It was just killing me. She's like, "You got to hire someone. Just got to do it," And I'm the kind of person who I'm hard to convince of something. But yeah, so she got me into it, and it was the best decision. It's the best decision and the worst decision a business owner will ever make, because they're so difficult to handle. Extra people, especially when it's your passion and your love, and there get extra hands involved in that. But if you can learn to do it and find good people, then it's such an amazing experience, freeing experience to have someone good.
Something that I've always wondered about is how you deal with seasonal, like the seasonality of your, especially people who do it full time, of your babies and your money, as far as, winter's obviously going to be a little bit more dead than your summer when you're hatching out babies.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, what I do is I just never put everything for sale in the fall. I hold things to sell during the winter. Thing is because it's seasonal, you can react to that and work with it. Most people, they hatch their kind of just speaking overall, the trends are everybody hatches their snakes between June and September approximately, okay, or May and September. And then everybody is just trying to sell them like crazy, okay? The problem is that everybody's got snakes for sale, right? And everybody's trying to outbid everybody, and price wars, and prices are coming down, and people get scared they're going to lose their money, and so they go down even further. It gets become a mess. So my goal is I kind of stay out of that market. I'll put a few things out there that I think are different than what other people have, but then I'll just let people sell out, and then I'll come in January, have the animals that are a little bit bigger. January and February, March, April, all those months are fantastic for tax return stuff. People have money, but usually there's very little on the market. And at that point, you see animals actually selling for more than they were in the fall, because there's very, very little quantity. I think once you understand how it works, you just adjust to make that work in your favor. The other thing is that in the hatching season, for the most part, most of my clients are people who are breeders, but don't have necessarily as high end a collection as I do, and they want to buy some of the nicer animals to enhance their own collection. And they can't buy those animals until they've sold theirs. You know what I'm saying? That is that is the money they're going to spend. So I have to let them make their sales through the fall and do really well. And then my goal is to be there when they're ready, and have the animals available for them when they're ready. So yeah.
That is a crazy good insight for any ball python. Like
people.
There's light bulb in my head, and I don't even do ball pythons.
I tell people that all the time. Just calm down. It's okay. You'll sell them. Just be patient. Let them come.
People will always want them.
Yeah, always, for sure.
So, we usually talk about ball pythons as a whole, or kind of a first time, beginner snake area. Obviously, where you're at now, you're not doing that. Is there a time where you transitioned from selling mostly to new beginner people and now to mostly breeders?
For the most part, it's been to breeders the whole time.
The whole time? Wow.
The
Okay.
animals I bought initially were high enough end that, you know, I was selling hets and everything, but even hets back in the day were $5-6 grand a pair, you know, or whatever.
Right.
So from the beginning, I mostly deal with either other breeders or people who just want really high end pets, and that actually that segment is growing a lot. We're getting a lot more people like that these days, which is cool because I mean, from a business standpoint, that's people that I don't necessarily have to compete with that I'm selling to, which is awesome. But also it just shows that people value them for more than just as a breeder, you know, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, did you have that foresight in order to know? Because I mean, I felt like no one knew that ball pythons were a pyramid scheme until it was like 10 years too late and they didn't invest on the top, you know, like you did that right off the top. Did you recognize that immediately?
Not immediately. I think, but about a year or two in, I don't think it was my idea. I think someone said ball python's a big pyramid scheme, and like my head was like, well, it is a pyramid scheme. That's exactly what it is. And I'm like, there's no other way. But pyramid scheme doesn't have to be bad. It just means that you have, you know, a hierarchy, you know, and people can move up and down that. You know, it's not like you're fixed in somewhere. But yeah, that's quite a revelation when you realize it. And but it helps you frame things in a way that you can, you know, do things in a way that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I haven't seen you at least move in the direction of either micro scales or scaleless. What are some of your thoughts on those projects?
Boy, that's to get me in trouble. So do you want me to be honest, or you want me to give you the?
Well, I want you to be honest. This isn't a show where we love.
I don't want to try to be uncontroversial.
Oh, we love controversy.
So okay. So well, basically, so I have a couple scaleless heads. I actually had a scaleless head was given to me, a male, and I did breed it. I bred it one time, and made one clutch of them this past year. But honestly, I think I don't know enough about. I mean, I can't predict the market completely, but when I look at scaleless ball pythons, I think, well, what are they similar to? Well, they're similar to, you know, scaleless corns in that market, and I just
but
see
uglier.
That, okay, maybe less colorful. I don't know. We're still seeing all different colors that can be made with this. So I wouldn't. But I compare them to that, and I think, okay, well, do people really want all their corns to be scaleless? No, they like the scaled corns. They like the scaleless too, but nobody is saying let's make all the corn scaleless. No one's doing that. And I think that with ball pythons, the best genes, the ones that are really, really valuable, are the ones that people would be like, man, I'd love to get this into everything. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I just don't see that with the scaleless. I think scaleless are really cool, and I think almost everybody's going to want to have one in their collection, so they're plenty marketable, plenty of room there. But I think in the end, they're going to, when it's all said and done, they're going to be a somewhat narrow part of the spectrum, because people are going to be like, okay, these are awesome. Let's make some of these, but I still want 75% of my collection not to have it, you know, to have all their scales and not be scales, whatever. And so from that point, I thought I'd rather invest in genes that I feel like people want in 100% of their collection, because the marketability will be longer term on that.
Well,
so yeah, without bashing it, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna like, because I mean, I'll tell you, because obviously I don't care, because I don't do ball pythons. But you know, to me, corns, scaleless corns are awesome, and I have seen a lot of baby scaleless and adult scaleless. What I haven't seen is the amount of people who have gone into the scaleless ball python project and how readily people get ball pythons to breed. I just don't see the amount of scaleless babies and scaleless adults that I would think I would. So that's
you're a conspiracy theorist. I don't know. You know, I'm plugged into a lot of different stuff, and I'm not aware of any problems that are keeping them from being successful at all. Aside from, you know, some of the early stories, and there's all kinds of reasons why I think that some of those early ones didn't. didn't do well.
Mm.
But I think they're fine. I don't think there's an issue there. It would be interesting to see a scaleless female on eggs. That'll be I mean, that'll be put the whole thing to rest. But
Right.
I don't look at it that way anymore. I think they're fairly viable. You might have to do some little care differences and everything, which might actually disadvantage some of the new keepers who want them if you have to keep them different. But no, I look at it more from a market standpoint, not otherwise. I think it'd be awesome to own a scaleless animal, but it'd probably be just one, and I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want it in everything. So
Yeah, I just wanted to play A, devil's advocate, and B, say some things that
Yeah.
other people are thinking. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So as far as your projects that are coming up this year, so can you explain to us a little bit about the magma?
Sure. Well, so the magma is the red stripe clown. The red stripe is a gene. A lot of what I've gotten to be known for lately is, in the last few years, is taking some of these genes that are not that uncommon and just showing in some cool way what can be done with them, and then making them more popular again. And I think that there's a lot of room for that. There's tons and tons of morphs out there that are massively underrated. People don't even realize, or there's a few initial cool things made and then people forgot all about them. In fact, the clown at one point was the snake that nobody cared about. The clown was made. They go, oh, clowns. And then, boom, pastel clowns were made. And they're like, oh, we got to get clowns again. A few years passed where nobody cared about them.
Mm-hmm.
Then pastel and killer clowns were made by TSK, and I think BHP made some too. And then everybody wanted clowns. They're clown crazy. And then it went quiet again. No one cared about clowns for a while. And then I started making the fire and fireflies and leopard clowns and then the spot nose clowns. And suddenly the whole thing started rolling. Every morph has its day, and sometimes some morphs will have several days, So back to the magma. The magma is the red stripe clown, and I think it's taken that underrated gene, the red stripe, putting it into the clown. It's creating a different look that we haven't seen in other ways. That's what it all comes down to in my mind, is making something that you can't create another way. Yeah, and it's exciting. It's ground floor, and we get to see where all it leads. But it's another shot in the arm of the clown project and also the red stripe project.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you've done. I don't know if people have realized as far as spot nose, because I used to have pastel spot nose back in the day, and no one gave a shit. Spot nose was like $100 snake, and then all of a sudden you put it to a clown, and everyone loves spot nose. Everyone loves spot nose clown. All of a sudden, and then. Do you see that also happening with red stripe now?
Yeah, it's funny because even though it had happened before, I did not anticipate it with the red stripe. But when I did the video, like red stripes just disappeared everywhere. Everybody bought them up, and I did not. I kind of thought that, I don't know. I just didn't expect that to happen really. But it's cool to see that people are getting into a new gene, appreciating a new a gene that was underrated, and a couple of breeders messaged me and just said, hey, thanks for the sales. That's awesome, because really if one does well, we all do well, and that's what's a community. So it's a community marketplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you think we need, at least ball pythons, do they need more genes, or is there still much to be had with what's there?
That is definitely the old thinking, that we need more genes, and I think most people still feel that way. But new genes are fantastic, and we can definitely use every one of them. But I don't think we need them. I think there's so much to be done, and we have. If you think about it, we probably have 150 genes, like legit different genes. We could put those together for eternity. What I'm saying? There's no real end to how long we could work with those. So, and I think people who kind of get on that mindset early on and think, what can I make, as opposed to what can I buy, in order to make money, I think that they'll actually go further long term.
Mm-hmm. So what do you see as, what's your favorite underrated morph right now, besides obviously red stripe or clown? Clown is now, in proper place, but
that's a good question. I still think red stripe is massively underrated, even though people suddenly onto it. That's still pretty heavy in my head. You know, I still feel like there's so much to do with it that I haven't done. So we have a few new genes on the market right now, are the confusion, the acid, that kind of stuff, static. And there's a lot to be done with that stuff. It's pretty exciting, but that's a relatively new morph. It's not something that's massively underrated. People seem to be pretty excited about that. There's still a lot to be done with blackhead and chocolate and some of those genes that, you know, showed up and then disappeared. And then I think they're going to come roaring back. I really do.
You know what? I really like tri-stripes. I think that's what they're called. And no one works with those damn things.
No one cares about them. I know. You know, that the other one is G stripes. For some reason, people, they say they like striped ball pythons, but they cannot. They just, G stripes, people have a terrible time getting excited about them. They're super cheap. And tri-stripes are simply incredible. And yet, again, they have very little market value. Almost, you know, there's very little demand for them. But I don't know. They'll probably get their day too. It's coming. Get in, you know, get in while you can.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there is just all it's waiting for is that one combination to unlock it.
That's how it is. I mean, every morph has its day. You want to. That's why I believe in getting into a lot of little things. Every time a new morph comes out, I think, oh, it's a reasonable price. I buy it and I put it on the shelf and start working it in because I know its day's coming. Whether I determine what it's going to be that makes it crazy or someone else does, it's coming.
So what's your ratio? I mean, you kind of mentioned it throughout the podcast so far, but as far as buying snakes, how much do you trade? How much do you try to invest back in your business?
Yeah, I probably buy, you know, for myself, probably a dozen snakes a year or so. And they're usually things that just kind of go perfectly with what I have. So maybe something I missed on. I tried to make it and I missed it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to, you know, use another year trying to make that. I want to buy it. Maybe it's just usually the snakes I buy aren't actually that expensive. They're usually the thing I think is underrated, undervalued, or maybe just the best example I've ever seen of a combo I already have. And I think, man, that's a better example than I've ever seen. So I'm put that on my shelf and sell the one I have. You know what I'm saying? Because it's about building that quality over time. Yeah, I mean, every so often I'll make a big investment into something, but for the most part, that's not where I put my money.
So where are you trying to go as far as gene wise? Obviously, you're trying to keep it down, but are you doing double recessives, triple? Are you just working through recessives?
Okay, so yeah, the way I see it is like, you know, recessives are the main ingredients, you know, and the codoms are like the spices. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm definitely combining. You know, I actually made a clown lavender pied last year, and you know, triple recessive visual, but it died in the egg. So I'm back to square one on that again. That stuff takes so long, and that's what makes it so wonderful. Because whenever somebody gets that male, that triple recessive male, spends the time, they're going to have just a complete corner on that market for who knows how long until other people can do the same. But I also made my first quad heads this past year. So, you know, quadruple heads. And then you're talking about some real long odds. But I really believe that we'll be doing this 20 years from now. So why not start? You know, why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's super interesting as far as just you could work that 20 years trying to hit that on quad head.
Right. Well, it would be that long for sure if you were just doing quad head to quad head every time. But the thing is you can actually start to narrow it down. You know what I'm saying? You start to narrow it, and suddenly you have, okay, so it's visual for one gene and het for the other three. Okay, that's you said every few years you can start to
get closer and closer.
Eventually get to that one where the odds are finally in your favor. Or you can just get lucky. Some people just get really lucky and they hit the first time, and then it's all history from there.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
A little advice for someone just getting into it who wants to make money quickly on reptiles. I mean, obviously you go slow and you're very patient with it. So how could you, give advice and, encourage people to be patient in this game?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you have to go in with the right mindset. If you come in with the mindset that you're gonna make money fast, it might work for a while, but it's going to blow up on you pretty quick. You know, there's all kinds of shortcuts people can make. And there's lots of places that you can lose money, either with a bad investment, or cutting a corner as far as quarantine, or buying from shady people. There's just so many things that can really just take your goals and make them just completely gone forever. So I think there's a reason why most businesses fail, and not taking those shortcuts is a big part of what's going to make you succeed.
Mm-hmm. Now, we had a couple questions come through the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first one, someone asked a while ago, you talked about selling your snakes a little bit later in the winter months. Now, do you feel like it's harder to ship those snakes out because you're selling it in the colder months?
Yeah. I end up sitting on a lot of snakes, for weather reasons a lot. I'm in Georgia, so for the most part, my weather is fairly, decent throughout the year. There's very rare that I can't ship out, but as far as people receiving them, yeah, I mean, at any given moment, during the winter months, I'm probably sitting on 50 or 60 snakes that just can't ship yet. But that's the cost of doing business. That's just how it goes. You kind of pay to play a little bit, and that's how I pay, is I just feed snakes that I've already sold, and that's okay. So I get to look at them longer.
Absolutely.
But this time of year, like this morning, I shipped out, I don't know, 15, 16 boxes, just because it happened to be, warm through Indianapolis today. And it's cold again on Tuesday night.
Right.
But, you basically waiting for that one hub to warm up for one day, and you're like, all right, open the floodgates. We're doing this. And
so you're just checking Weather Channel like every morning for a bunch of different cities.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just kind of seeing where, what small percentage of the nation can I ship to today, and how many people we have there in that section that are waiting for snakes, and then make it happen.
Wow. The second question from the chat is, what do you do for rodents? Buy local, buy frozen, or breed your own? And what do you think about ASFs?
Okay, so I breed all my own rodents. It's a fantastic thing if you can do it, because it's a huge cost. Like, I was spending $1,200 to $1,500 a week on rodents. Yeah, it's very expensive, but building the building and doing it yourself, that was a $75,000 investment, but it's already paid back so many times over. And because $1,500 a week adds up fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have the ability to make that investment and breed your own rodents on a high level, it's totally worth it. ASFs, they're actually illegal in Georgia. We're one of the few states that says no exotic rodents or something like that. It's written into the code.
No corn snakes and no fun.
Right, exactly. No fun. That's right. So I don't deal with ASFs, but I found that it's pretty rare for a ball python that wants to eat ASFs that won't eat a mouse. For the most part, mice and ASFs are somewhat interchangeable. Mice don't get as big, which is unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just deal with it.
So I'm going to take our last question from the chat, and I do enjoy this question. So, with all your success, are you still the weird snake guy at your family reunion?
Not just family reunions, everywhere I go. So I'm pretty active in our church and everything, and it's funny because, some family in our church will have their parents came in from Alaska for the week or whatever, and they're like, and then they're introducing me like, "Oh, you're the snake guy." I'm like, "I don't even know you. I'm the snake guy." But that's not as bad as my wife. My wife is a snake guy's wife. That's how she is. She doesn't have a name anymore. "Oh, you're the snake guy's wife." That's worse than being the snake guy. I think that's too bad.
Right. You don't even get the cool stuff.
Right, exactly. But then I have friends, who breed rodents for a living, and they're the rodent guys. That's even worse. Come on, they're the rat guy,
or cricket guy, or cockroach guy.
Right. You'd be like, I'm an insect feeder specialist or technician or something like that. You got to give it a good title or something.
Yeah, snake eye all of a sudden seems mid-level. It seems pretty nice.
Right, could be worse. It always could be worse.
So, Justin, I want to thank you so much for taking out the time and being on tonight. And
my pleasure.
Do you have any parting words of guidance, and then also a little bit of where people can get in touch with you?
Okay, guidance-wise, just follow your own gut. Do what you're passionate about. That's really what leads to success, I think, for any of us in the end, is people who are choosing to be the best at who they are inside, personally. And that's going to lead to that not following some cookie cutter, following me or anyone else. And that's kind of what I did early on. And it could, who knows, it could have gone the other way, but for me, it worked really well, and hopefully it will for all you guys too. Get in touch with me. I'm pretty easy to find. Just type in Justin Snakes in Google, or Justin K. I don't make it easy knowing how to spell my last name. That's not important. So Justin K. I'm on YouTube and Instagram. I'm on all the social except for Snapchat. So
Awesome.
I've not gotten his now. I'm a little too old for Snapchat, I think.
No,
I can't. It's just too personal.
We don't do it, but you're not too old.
I just can't make any sense of it. It's like, I don't understand what's going on.
It doesn't make sense for what we're doing. Like, we're not posting all day long. Yeah, it just doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. I feel a little better then. But no, you can find me anywhere, and I try not to be too obnoxious and be everywhere at all times, but I like to show cool stuff and have some fun with it too.
Awesome, man.
Great.
So we're gonna stick around, kind of talk a little bit of our corn snake season and everything going on for the next hour.
But have a good date night.
Thanks. Yeah, she's been shopping, so I gotta go see the damage.
Oh, no. That's the trade-off, huh?
It's okay. We'll go find out.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.
All right, guys. So we are going. I noticed we haven't on the podcast we haven't really gotten a chance to talk much about our season and what's going on over here. And there's so much shit going on over here. I'm gonna take my jacket off because
why have you been sitting at the whole
here? Because I couldn't move the mic around. I didn't want to move the mic around.
The mic's been so weird. There'd be times that I would say something and it wouldn't click back to us, but then other times we would not move one muscle.
I'm really hoping that the audio went through good, because weird shit was happening on our end, and
really
I really
loud.
enjoyed the interview. I thought there was some really good shit, so I hope it is. We should act like we're still on though. So our corn snake season, we took them out of, when did we take them out of brumation? Oh, you don't remember. I think it was somewhere in mid-February. Anyway, that's one thing that we could go back and find out on Instagram, but we took them out probably mid-February, and
yes, I would
so
say
we
that's
started
true.
feeding up. And how we ramped up for breeding season, or how I usually ramp up for breeding season, is I start with hopper mice for all my adult corn snakes, and I'll go every 3 to 4 days. And then slowly, as we progress, I go, 5 days, 7 days.
Okay. Now February 6th is when
February
we took them out.
6th is when we took them out, which was a little bit early. I think I may have had drills. Something happened to where we couldn't do it the next weekend. I usually like to go mid-February, but we went a little early. We just had kind of a weird winter here where weather was all over the place, and I was just remember it was unseasonably warm,
but then there was also days that would drop in the teens, and we were getting worried about the heater constantly running.
Yeah, we had
it was also our space heater kept.
Well, the heater, it got way colder than we ever expected it to, and the heater actually worked too hard and blew a fuse. So it blew a fuse. We just woke up one morning and, oh shit, all the lights are out. And we're very confused, and we're oh no. And
we can take our earphones out.
Yeah, we take our earphones out. And for reference, that night it was 25 degrees. Or no, it was less.
It was less. It was in the teens.
It was pretty much as low as Texas can get. So that was just scary. And we did some temps when we were in there. It was about 30 degrees in there. And, we had a snake that was in the water bowl and stuff. They didn't give a fuck. We ended up, ramping them up back to the 55 degrees, and 50 degrees rather. And no one really had any ill effects. I mean, we did have, because of the temperature swings, because we had random 70-degree days, we did have a couple shed during brumation, which really scared me and really thought it was going to throw everyone off. But it seems like we went back down again and everyone reset, and we're talking now in April. It's been kind of a later season than I thought it would.
It's taken a couple more tries.
So that first shed, we waited until the first shed to pair them all up. And then after that first shed and after pairing them all up the first time, no one stuck. And that's somewhat normal. I mean, usually it takes at least like a couple weeks after that first shed to really get into it. So I was like, I wasn't worried, but I was still like a little, am I doing it right? Do I suck at this? Am I the worst? And then give it, what was it? It had to have been a week or two later, we started getting first locks. And these first locks weren't like the female was receptive. It was like
Total.
the male was raping the female.
Like it was very much like pinning her down. I mean, and obviously you have more experience with breeding corns. Like for me, I thought it was going to be way more mutual, which I shouldn't. That was probably naive because when you think of like
nature's always mutual.
No, it's not. When you think of like Planet Earth and all those movies we watched when you were younger, like I've seen like kangaroos and like lions, like all those type of animals doing it on Planet Earth. It is total rape-ish. Like it's pinning down the female. And so I don't know why in my brain I thought it was gonna be different for snakes.
Yeah.
But it's total like, okay, let me chase you till I can pin you down.
We're gonna name them all Harvey Weinstein or some shit.
Not funny.
Oh, sorry.
Not funny.
So they were just really, the males really were going for it and didn't seem like the females. But now we're at the point where we're pairing up for second and third time, which I mean, it's we're just making sure, just putting the old seal on it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it seems like the females are much more receptive now. Like there's less struggle, less rapage, and everyone's a little bit more receptive. So I'm not sure if it's just because they know the guy's coming and they can't fight, or they're just receptive now. Because I've had most of the time my corns don't really put up a fight, so these ones were kind of weird.
But it sucks because like two of the ones I'm most excited about have not gone. Now, one, the coral growth. I'm gonna mess this up. Coral ghost stripe tessera, right? Is a female, male.
Coral ghost
male to the
ghost female.
That has isn't that a paradox?
Ghost paradox for strawberry.
Yes, no, that is one that I'm excited. Now that one just the paradox one just has that one little strawberry thing on the eye, like the head somewhere there. I don't know how to play out, but that was one I was really excited about. And those locked because the coral ghost stripe tessera just is an awesome ass looking snake. Like it's just beautiful with those purples, like pinkish, whatever. But my second favorite or most excited one was the Miami Okatee, and that bitch will not let herself get inseminated.
Well, there's a weird she shed really late. Like she just shed and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Plus she is the youngest, so keep in mind she was so I tried to do 3 years and she was a 2015. So I'm not sure if it's just a stretch. She is a little bit small, but she's a plump small.
What does that mean, plump small?
Meaning like it's not like she's small in stature. She's got decent stature, but she's still, not exactly where we need her to be. And I kind of figured she may not go this season. She still may go. It's just I don't know if her body's like, yeah, bro, we need more food, so let's shed later. That doesn't make. I mean,
I don't know.
That smart? I don't know. We'll really find out. I mean, that is our most anticipated pairing, whether it be, from people on Instagram or just us personally liking it. So that's a big one, man. I really hope that happens. But then again, I'm not mad because, we can make these, being that she's a 2015. We can make Miami Okatees for the next damn 15 years.
Right. We have time. So. To backtrack a little bit, Baird asked how many times we put them together. So after the first shed, put them together the first time. We pretty much are creepy and we'll sit here and watch them for like 20 minutes. Like legit, we have them on the floor and him and I are like on our knees looking in the tubs
for
watching.
The most part, corn snakes are unlike a lot of other animals to where they court very quickly and then they'll lock up pretty quickly. So it's like within a time frame that's reasonable for you to sit and watch. Like we'll have like 10 tubs on the floor from all the males and females. and then just kind of watch them all together so that we can take pictures, we can take videos, so that we can put up, YouTube videos. We can put up, if you guys haven't seen, we have a corn snake inventory on our website. We are, I guess I'll put it on the podcast information and stuff like that, but it will tell you all of our corn snakes that we own, and then it will show all of our breeders, and then below, all the way at the bottom, it will show all of our pairings, and all of the individuals listed have pictures, and then the pairings also have locking pictures.
Yes.
So you can see who's locked. We don't have to tell you. You can go to this damn thing and you can say, oh, they locked.
Yes.
And so here's the pictorial evidence of them locking.
But let me finish. Okay. So if we
I'm gonna let you finish, but
if we see they're courting for like 20-25 minutes, but no locking has happened, we'll usually put them, we'll leave them in together overnight, just because it shows that they're interested, like there's some interest, and so we'll just give them some time. But if after that 25 minutes they're kind of on opposite sides of the tub, like they're not really interested at all, then we'll separate them and put them back in their own tubs. And you want to wait a couple of days before you try again, because that courting process is, even though it happens quickly, like it's stress on that animal. Like the fact of trying to, put yourself out there trying to woo someone is stressful. Even for
you're hitting all the positions.
You're just trying all these different ways to get it in there. You're tired. And so they need the rest. So I would say if we put them together and they're courting and they don't lock, we give them like 3 or 4 days before we try again. Now,
and that gives me an opportunity to feed the females. So I like to feed like right after they pair up, so that by the time I'm ready to pair up again, they have digested that meal. Because if you guys don't know, corn snakes have really fast metabolism. So they'll run through a mouse, in 1 to 3. And these are still small meals. I can stay small mouse. There's nothing I have to go higher, because I'd rather do quantity than size. So I'm really focusing on small mice, and I find that they will eat further through the breeding season that way. So especially when they become gravid, so they can pass smaller meals more easily, obviously, when gravid. That's not exactly down to a science, but that is my human fucking thought logic that I'm applying to it. So that's just the way I do it.
Yes. And then we don't have a number for how many times we relock. I think he's going overboard in his relock. He's done one pair 3 times just to make sure. I don't think that's super necessary.
I don't think it's I think it kind of stems from really what I want to do, especially with ball pythons. What I did, because I'm not great at looking at ovulation and knowing that they're gravid and stuff, is keep on putting them to each other until they hate each other and they go to opposite sides. Once you see that female go to the opposite side of the tub than the male, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, she's pregnant. And so I use that actually to determine what my females, and I can tell if my female's building. I mean, but also I don't want to take any risk to
miss it, to not miss.
I want to make sure I hammer it down no matter what. And therefore, if I have the time, it's not like we have 10,000 animals and we don't have the time to do it. We have the time to.
But could that be stressing them out too much to keep putting them back together and together? I mean, granted, we give the time.
That's what I'm saying. We have the time to give them recovery.
Okay.
So it's like our males are recovering and eating, but I do feed the males less than the females. I'll keep that in mind. But I am giving them recovery meals and everything. And I mean, they just seem to do just fine that way. And that's the way I like to do. That's the way I want to make sure that I don't want to say I could have done more at the end of the season. I haven't seen any negative effects from pairing up this much. I don't think it's overboard for what
Brandon says.
Do.
Buy a $10,000 ultrasound machine.
Yeah, or I could just buy an ultrasound. No, like I think I'll buy an ultrasound for my $100 corn snakes. But I will just. I mean, I can tell when they're building, but I can never tell if they're pregnant, because corn snakes will lay a clutch of slugs, no problem. So
yeah. Also earlier, Chris and Marissa, which I realize I don't know if this is Chris or Marissa speaking. I assumed it was Marissa at first, but that's just probably because I'm a girl. But she or he asked what our incubator we use is, which we'll probably get into this more and make another video this year once we are actually incubating. But we
may
can
not
talk
have
quick.
time on the podcast.
Yeah, so we can always talk quickly about it. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, so luckily colubrids are super easy, and we keep ambient temperature, which is 80 degrees in a room. So not all of our corn snakes are kept like that. The younger ones are kept at 85 hot spot, and then our ambient in the room is about 74. And then once they get to adult size, they go into an ambient room, which is 80 degrees kept, ambient means that the whole room is kept 80 degrees. So there's no hot spot, no anything, and they do great like that. And so actually
Trying to hold in your
corn snake eggs-
burps.
yeah. Corn snake eggs, if it's any indication, last year we kept them at about 75. It took almost 100 days, but they hatched out. And I've also kept them 85 degrees. Took 50 days, 55 days, but they hatched out. So this year we just most of the time you're going to put them on top of your rack. You can put them in a slot in your rack, or I'm going to put them in the ambient room. So 80 degrees seems to be a good medium in between those two. I don't want them all going 100 days. It might not be. Dude, these babies came out fucking big and ready to go.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, like these things, when I did it 80, what was it? I think I may have put it like 86 or something, which is, in my opinion, too high. But the babies came out.
That's funny you said, in my opinion, you're the one who did it.
The more you know. I mean, you learn that shit as you go on. So it's like they came out very small, and it made my life harder. And when I had to assist feed babies, I was assist feeding mouse tails and pinky heads and all that silly shit. And ain't nobody got time for that. So definitely,
yeah,
I think 80, we're going to strike a good happy medium. Everyone's going to be nice and somewhere in the middle of those.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we may have some eggs when we're moving and stuff, but I'll figure that out. But I mean, I'm super pumped for everything it's going to be a giant year. Things are going that we want to go. Brandon actually just mentioned the hognose.
I was gonna answer him. I don't even fucking know if they've bred. I'm so over these snakes. This just feeds into my hatred of them because they're annoying and won't breed.
No, I mean, I don't know if they've bred. So our hognose are both het snow. First of all, we'll get that in there, and I put them together quite a few times. So I'm doing a breeding every 3 to 4 days. I'm feeding the female in between. The male doesn't want to eat because
he never wants
to eat. And B, I heard that hognose males often go off feed in the wintertime and they cruise a lot and they're little psychos. So I've been breeding them every 3 to 4 days. I've put them together 3 times. The male is definitely trying to court the female. The female is like fucking 3 times the size of him easily. So he's definitely not doing any raping like the corn snakes are.
Right. He can't hold her down.
No.
He can't hold her tail down.
I'm worried about her eating him, but so far it's been so good. And she's just very hungry. She comes out of the tub right when I open it all the time, just looking for food. So I'm gonna keep on feeding her, and hopefully I haven't seen any locks visually, but the male's definitely courting her, and I definitely leave them in for 24 hours. So you never know what happens in that 24 hours. But so that's kind of my game plan. I've never bred hognose before. Hopefully I breed hognose. If I don't, it will be hard to keep them around because they're a real pain in my ass.
Wait, I thought that guy said don't leave them for 24 hours.
No, yeah, he said pair them up every 3 to 4 days and leave them for 24 hours when you pair them up.
Oh, okay. I thought we contacted him saying we were scared about her eating him. And he
no,
said separate him.
Yeah, he said it's possible. It definitely happens, but I mean, you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. No, I'm just kidding. But
I mean, the good thing is you're feeding in between, so it's not like she's hungry.
Oh, she's kind of always hungry, but but I mean, nothing yet. We'll see what happens. I mean, I haven't gotten any visual. I wouldn't be surprised if they've locked up, but
Dan said, why haven't we gotten into Hondurans? They're pretty color. The colors are pretty and they get big.
I do really like Honduran milk snakes. and I would love to get them eventually. It just hasn't been convenient yet. I mean, there's those weird things where you want them for so long, and Hondurans are one of those things where I would always love to have them, but and then it's like we went on like a Cali King kick and actually got them. So there's a weird thing where like you get into a certain species, but you don't pull the trigger, and then other species you get into them and you're like immediately pull the trigger and go wild, right? It's just a weird
Speaking of,
thing.
I want more. I want a lavender. I want
Yeah,
a lavender
Cali King.
so bad.
I
Ooh, another
So,
question. Sorry.
yeah.
I don't know if it was Brandon or Dan. They asked a while ago, how many ball python clutches did you have before you sold them all?
Like how many in total or in a season? I think total it wasn't anything crazy. It was like 8 or something like that. Enough to where I realized, oh, okay, I can do this consistently forever, or I cannot.
Oh, really?
Meaning, I've tried 8 times and I got 8 clutches, so it's really a pretty simple thing. And 8's probably not a real number. I don't really know the number.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely something that I got used to producing ball pythons, and it's definitely not difficult. But so I want to talk about the Cali Kings.
Okay.
We have a banded male.
I want to show it.
Okay.
I'm going to show the
Go
female.
get one. Okay, good luck. You're about to see the first time Melissa's ever been bit by a snake on video. Hey, go get it. Go get it. Shut your mouth. Yeah, she's real nice. She does like food a bit, so be wary of that when you're putting your hand in there. But she is a dotted cow king from Don Shores. She's actually 7 years old, so she's definitely ready to breed, but I don't know if we haven't had her the whole time, so she hasn't cycled correctly. You're gonna give her to me?
Yeah, because you scared me.
All right. So our male is a big banded male, and she is a little chocolatey looking dotted female. And yeah, she's just really cool. They're crazy phenotypical as far as or polymorphic. What the fuck am I talking about? Um, they come out in all different kinds of patterns, colors, and stuff like that. So she's a little bit more chocolatey, although it's not like intended, but they kind of a lot of them brown out. You'll see a lot, especially some of the banded animals that stay black. I don't know a lot about Cali king snakes, so someone will probably be like, "You're an idiot," but that's a little bit of what I know. So
But her head's still black, right?
yeah, like it's blacker by the head, and then it gets kind of more chocolatey as it goes down. But as you can see, just the same size as a corn snake, which is just totally perfect. And they love to eat everything, and they'll eat corn snakes when we have snakes that don't thrive as well. Our Mexican Black King is very, very good at that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to find a female for the Mexican Black King, but the I'm pumped about trying to do Cali Kings, but honestly, we just ragtag through shit together, and I find that it's obviously a lot better to plan these things ahead of time, brewmate properly, have the animals the whole time. She's now rattling in my hand, and really, she was rattling her tail just now, so she's not coming down, but um it's obviously much better. I don't find that you just get animals and they breed right away. But if anything's gonna breed right away, it's going to be a colubrid. So, we tried it. I'm not worried about her produce. She'll produce eventually, and everything will be good. And I really just enjoy keeping a new species, and so I'm pumped about them. Trying to breed the cow kings. Do you want to bring out the banded male? So we've been pairing them up, and there's no real interest. She hasn't shed yet since I've had her. Dude, I've only had her for like a month. So me trying to pair them is just stupid. It's stupid. It's really hope, but I don't, I'll try, but it's whatever if it doesn't work out. But it's fun, and I'm liking it's weird because Cali Kings are definitely a beginner reptile, right? I mean, next to a corn snake, probably one of the best beginner reptiles, besides the fact that a lot of them are a little food aggressive, but that's part of the fun. And they're beginner reptiles, but I've never had one. So it's the kind of same thing with Hondurans. You see a lot of people start up with things like milk snakes, and I've never had one. So I got a couple, and I'm really enjoying them. And as you can see, that male tossed his water bowl. During the winter, he's been very, very going all over the place. He's also a little hungry because the person that we got them from, he was a bit fat. So he's been on a diet, and I only want to feed him like every 3 weeks. So I want to make sure that we get him to a more healthy weight. And then, around breeding season, we got to change everything in there.
Yeah, he completely
Yeah.
flipped it over.
And around breeding season, they're going to be more active, and they're going to toss their water bowls, and they're going to do all this fun stuff. But as you can see, he is people on YouTube, people on the podcast, unfortunately can't see this, but he is a pretty close to 50-50 banded male. He's got a few aberrant little bands that don't go all the way, but otherwise, I really, really love this snake. I really love both of them, and I really love Cali Kings in general. We definitely want to get some more morphs, but right now we're sticking with some line bred animals. And if we put a banded to a dot, we'll probably get a bunch of silly stuff, all different stuff across the spectrum. So that would be really, really cool. And you want to hold him? Well, yeah, because he was in so much moisture. Yeah, because we got to change everything. Yeah, but I'm excited about getting more Cali Kings and doing more Cali King stuff. We also got an emery rat snake from Tony. So last week we had Tony on the podcast from Selective Scales, and he brought over actually an emery rat snake that he's had for quite a long time. And it's I really love emerys are a close cousin to the corn snake, so it fits right in. And he's a really cool snake. I would love to have all the North American rat snakes. I would love to have a lot of the North American king snakes. So that's just another species to kind of put down on my belt, I guess you could say, that we have.
I've been doing these accents for the past hour on random things, and it's weird.
It's called emphasis,
I don't wanna put him back in.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to put him back in the wet.
Can I put it- is that too small to
Oh,
put him in?
why don't you just put him with a female? Maybe we'll do a pair. Oh yeah, you can put him in that holding container. All right. And so a few people have mentioned black pine snakes, which are super cool. And I love just pine snakes in general. And black pine snakes are now protected, so you can't bring them throughout state lines. That's the only reason why I wouldn't get them at this point, is just because A, there's not going to be a market if I produce them, and B, I just don't see the way that we move around. I don't see it being reasonable to buy any, because we're just going to move and I would have to get rid of them, and that's just not anything I want to do. So that's why I haven't had them. And so and then black milk snakes are also awesome. So if people don't know what black milk snakes are, they essentially look like regular milk snakes or a lot of other species of milk snakes, and then over time they get jet black, and they're also a lot larger. I mean, they can get up pretty easily 8 feet or so. So they're super cool. What else are we pairing up? That some breeding season stuff that we need to talk
Something
about.
else that hasn't worked is excuse me, the lava terrazzo, which I don't know if that's a thing a lot of
I gotta
people
pee.
know a lot about. We're trying our lava terrazzo to our fire. And they just haven't worked. The fire's been really good this season. We've paired the fire with the sulfur. Shit, nah, I don't remember. We paired the fire. Yeah, that's what I thought. And the mother of McDonald. And so we're trying the fire with a lot of different things just because we like the bright intensity of the fire. And we're just hoping that that will come through in any of the babies we have. But, at the end of the day, we've never done a lot of these combinations before, so we're not sure. But that would be really nice. Oliver's here. Hello, Oliver. And to anyone who's still watching, earlier we had Justin KOBYLKA on. He could only do it for an hour. So if you are really interested in seeing Justin KOBYLKA, go watch the beginning of this podcast. Now it's just
listen to it on down
or listen to it tomorrow, the audio version tomorrow. Brandon said it seems like you're getting more and more into it, Melissa, as time goes on. More and more into what?
I'm guessing into snakes, and you into snakes. She was the catalyst behind getting the Cali Kings, to be honest, in comparison to me.
Yeah, because I really liked him.
Yeah. So that kind of proves his point.
I get. Oh, I think I was talking about. Oh yeah, no, I was talking about. Someone brought up pines, and I was saying that you love them, and I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a snuggle monster.
Yeah, I don't like anything that's gonna try to kill me.
It's certainly an awesome snake that I love to see the natural behavior in snakes. So if people don't know, pine snakes, they have they are a rattlesnake mimic. Similar patterns. I mean, not to the trained eye, but I mean, the normal layperson would say that it looks like a rattlesnake, and then of course they will, get in that pose like a rattlesnake, and they will kind of circle up and then S up and rattle and hiss and do everything like that, and just really, really big bluffs. They don't really bite that much, but they are a little psycho as far as their defense goes, it's super cool to see. I love seeing the animal's natural inclination to defend itself in comparison to a lot of our readily bred species, a lot of our readily kept species that are super calm. And it's like you don't even have with a pine, that you have a wild animal. Like there's no mistake in that shit. So
yeah. Speaking of that, I meant to ask you earlier on Instagram, someone messaged us asking if like they said they had the opportunity to get some hogs out in the wild, and like we're wondering if that's something they should do or not, and you suggested against it. Now I was wondering, are there certain species you would say are better to do wild caught than other species, or are you just kind of like, no, don't do wild caught at all?
We don't have to do that at all at this point, I don't think, for most things.
Yeah, but it's free.
Especially in hogs. Do you know how hard it is to get my hogs to eat? Imagine taking them out of the wild. And I don't even think she was talking about Westerns. I think she was talking to Easterns that no one can keep alive. There's very few people who keep them alive in captivity, and most of them are feeding toads of some sort.
Okay.
So I think fuck, man, it's not worth the work for a lot of these species. It's just so much easier. And especially if you're going to be taking, something that's readily bred in the US, at this point, a corn snake is cheaper. You can find a normal corn snake for $15-$20. Why would you even mess with it? And you can get it to eat immediately. So it definitely makes your life easier. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm totally against it, but kind of what was highlighted in the episode that we had with Stu Tennyson about gray bands. It's like, he's like, yeah, I spend, for, I forget what the ratio
was. Like 55 hours, I think, for one.
Every gray band. So it's like, would you rather just save up $150, or would you rather drive 10 hours out to West Texas, spend 50 hours and get one?
Well, yeah, but if she had it, just right there in her backyard type thing, what snake would you say, if that's in your backyard, go for it?
Nothing. It's too much trouble, man. There's no reason to bring it into your collection of captive snakes that can get sick. I mean, you can do that, take a shortcut, and kill your whole collection. Why would you do that? It's not worth it.
Okay.
I mean, for us, like all that would be is speckled king snakes would be something that I would like to have, but I can buy very cheap.
What about Slowinski's? Whatever.
Slowinski's corn snakes would have to be something that I would have to do that for. That's because the Slowinski's corn snakes that we do have in the hobby, which people don't even know that they exist, but it was once thought to be a mix between an emery rat and a corn snake. And they exist mostly right on the line of Texas and Louisiana in a pretty small place in a pretty small range. I mean, they also I heard go through Arkansas. Like they have random patches, but like that would be something because what they call them in the hobby right now is Kostaki corns, which is A, very confusing for everyone because everyone thinks that they're like a mutation of corn. And B, that means that they derive from Kostaki National Forest, which A is illegal to take animals from, and B is in Louisiana. So I would want a true Texas locality, Slowinski's corn, and I would want to call it a Slowinski's corn because that's what it's fucking called. It's not called um, it's not called a Kostaki corn, and it wouldn't be from Kostaki National Forest, and that's what would attract me to that animal, and the reason why it's called a Slowinski's corn is after a herpetologist. So it was a herpetologist who died actually September 11th, 2001 in Burma. He was bit by a many-banded crate because one of his assistants told him it was actually a wolf snake. And wolf snakes mimic many-banded crates. They're both white and black snakes. So he said it was the mimic. The assistant got bit by it earlier and nothing happened. And then Joe Slowinski went into the bag and it bit onto his finger, held onto his finger. A bunch of neurotoxic venom went through his veins, and he recorded every moment to the time of his death. He died because they couldn't get, he was in a part of Burma to where he couldn't get help. He was very isolated.
Wait, but how did it not affect the assistant?
Well, it was a dry bite. The first one was a dry bite.
Lucky
So
son
he
of a
wasn't
bitch.
envenomated the first time. So think about it, like this weird little guy in Burma who was hired just for 2 weeks just to handle some
This little
snakes.
assistant got fucking lucky.
Got very lucky. And then his knowledgeable insight,
Right, the really smart guy who, could have done so much.
a world-renowned herpetologist at the age of 30 something. He was only like 35 or so, which if you don't know, for a professor at a university,
It's pretty young.
Pretty young. It's the beginning of his career after, spending 8 years in school or whatever the hell it takes. So, where was I?
You're saying that he got bit and he recorded all of his...
all the moments leading up to his death. And why no one could get to him is because the Burma government was kind of like sketchy about even letting him in at the first place, because Burma was turning into Myanmar. There's some type of strife there, and I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but it was also September 11th, so airspace was shut down in the U.S., so no one was going to help him from the U.S. They were trying to get in touch with like the embassy in order to talk to Burma to get him help out. But of course, the whole government was shut down because of 9/11. So they couldn't talk to anyone from Burma to help him out to get him the anti-venom and stuff that he need. And Joe Slowinski actually, when he was young, got bit by a prairie rattlesnake, and he got anti-venom, and he's actually very allergic to anti-venom. So he also tried his hardest not to use anti-venom because he had adverse reactions to it. So there's a few different...
So he's just fucked in so many ways, like location, story. Date, like DNA.
So, and Joe Slowinski, he loved Louisiana, and the university that he worked in was in Louisiana, and just he loved everything about the culture of Louisiana. So what happened in like a few years later is that they found the first new fucking like colubrid species in the United States right there in Louisiana. So what they
named it after him.
The Slowinski's corn snake. So if you want to call it a Kostaki corn snake, just you're shitting
on what this man did.
Yeah,
or
and it's very, very reasonable people in the hobby. They just never looked into the backstory of it. So sometimes these animals are named Latin name. Some of this shit is just named out of ego, out of the people who find them, but also a lot of them are named in honor of people. So it's not a fucking Kostachy corn snake, you fucks. That's really the moral of the story, right?
Is that it's a Slowinski's corn, and they look really cool. I actually really like them, but it's something we'll probably never get because we'd have to go find it ourselves, most likely, because no one's selling them.
Yeah, I mean, and why are we being lazy? We live in Texas. I'm sure we could figure it out. I just don't. I don't know. I'm sure I could get in touch with people if I really, really tried and really, because I know some people who have found them. So, and we even asked, there was this guy from the Southwestern Herbological Society or something. I think he lives in San Antonio.
Houston.
And whatever. He he has herped like all of Texas. He knows all like the old school herpers of Texas. And he's like, yeah, like I don't really know of anyone who knows of them or has found them, or I don't know if people really care. It's not exactly
yeah, it's not a mainstream snake by any means.
It's not a gray band. It's not something you're gonna write home about.
I think it's cool, but I don't know.
Yeah, and it actually has a morph that's called silverleaf, but obviously that's coming from the Castani or the Kostachy. So so silverleafs aren't true Texas localities, but they are really cool. It kind of looks like almost like a tesseracorn. It's a pattern mutation. I would love to have those. They are a little expensive at this point and just rare. I mean, Don Soderberg produces them. He's the only one producing them, and I really don't know how much they are. Maybe like 500 or something. I mean, that's not a lot for the Python people, but for us, it is. And it's also one of those things only we think it's cool. But then again, I think if we told everyone the story,
it makes it more interesting.
Like, why doesn't everyone at least have a little bit of respect for them? Or I don't understand why there's so many species. Like Justin mentioned earlier, that in South Africa, they really like ball pythons, and they're on the same continent as ball pythons. South Africa, West Africa, still a long way apart, but they still have respect for things that even come from their own continent. We have an issue here in the United States where the only cool things are exotic things. So no one
like that.
People like exotic things, and that goes across the board.
Oh, yeah.
But not a lot of people give respect to our native species. How many people would love snakes that look exactly like snakes that we have here? Like, we have so many snakes, oh, it kind of looks like that snake, but it's not, so it's not cool. Like,
what?
Well, like a western green rat snake. We have a green snake here. That's really cool. Like,
but they like a rat snake because it's from Asia?
No, this is in the United States.
Oh.
So the western green rat snake, like, why don't more people care? It's a green snake from America. That's I wouldn't say easy to keep, but easier to keep than a lot of the Asian species, easier to keep than a lot of the other green species that we have. Why does no one care? Or the Baja rat snakes that come out this just coolish looking, that like quintessential orangey like worm color, but it's not. But like when it's on an actual snake, it looks cool, like a reddish. They're just super cool, and just not too many give a shit. And of course, even if you're looking at our native copperheads, they're some of like the most beautiful snakes you can see. And
you like those.
Yeah.
You like those way more than any other person I've ever met.
But we get very jaded for some reason by things that are around here.
Chris and Marissa, again, don't know who, said they have copperheads in New Jersey. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's they actually have copperheads from where I'm from, so a little bit into upstate New York, very, very lower upstate New York. If people don't know, I'm from Dutchess County, if you want to look that up. But you can get copperheads up there. You can also get timbers. In New Jersey, honestly, there's a lot of great stuff. We overlook that too, because the New Jersey Pine Barrens back in the day, that was like the go-to place. It was New Jersey Pine Barrens, Southern California, and West Texas. Those are the places that you wanted to go to herp. And the New Jersey Pine Barrens has giant northern pine snakes that are black and white, beautiful, beautiful. So the Pine Barrens are within reason from them. They live right by giant stadiums, so you can actually go to the Meadowlands like swampy, disgusting area, and there's plenty of snakes. But these giant northern pine snakes, and they're just crazy cool. And they're, even to this day, people love what they call Jersey giants, is what they used to call them back in the day. These giant northern pine snakes. There's also some cool milk snakes out there. Eastern milk snakes, beautiful milk snakes. Eastern king snakes. Just really, really cool stuff that people overlook. I would love to get an Eastern king snake. Some of them can look kind of like Cali kings, but a lot thinner on the white portion, a lot more black. There's also like the Eastern king snakes that will range more, a little bit more Western than that. But there's a lot of cool things that are overlooked, especially from that region, or really from every region of the United States. We're really
There's
lucky.
just so many though, babe. Like something's always gonna get overlooked, babe. There's so many different species.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's always gonna be something. Also, people always want what they can't have. Like, and
Yeah.
even though we can have the exotics, we can. But it's like, grass is always greener on the other side.
A speckled king snake looks awfully like a diamond python, but a diamond python's a diamond python. So like, or a splendida, a desert king snake, looks a little bit like a blackhead, but it's not even close to a blackhead.
Oh, and blackheads are so great.
Yeah,
My $10,000 dream.
Yeah.
Which,
Not 10. They're about 1,200.
Sorry,
$1,200
$1,200 dream.
We'll
Either way, more money than I'm going to be dropping on a snake.
Yeah.
In any.
But there's just, a few different things that I would love to get into, just because of people not really caring too much. And then of course there's like Brandon said, that's, I believe, the fox snake, which is a pretty cool snake. And you have a lot of your racers, all the coluber genus. There's fucking pink racers, like pink and black.
What?
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Never heard of that.
They're legit pink. Like we talk about snakes, and I tell you that things are like purple.
He's the worst at saying shit's purple, and it's not fucking purple. All the time we get into don't keep that title. Sorry. We get into arguments all the time because it's like, oh, like look at the purple, and they're like, no, that shit's gray. Like you're pulling stuff out of it that's not there. And so when you're saying there's a pink snake, you're making me think there isn't, because you make I've never seen the colors. You think, oh, okay. Well, now he's trying to Google it, and this is not. He's trying to Google pink racer, and we're coming up with Power Rangers shit.
Exact, but here it is.
Okay, yes, that is actually a pink snake.
Yeah, so they are legit pink and black. They are.
No, I don't really see the black.
Western coach whip. Sorry, for all the people
not pink racer.
Why was I thinking racer? I was thinking all the coach whips. There's a lot of different fucking crazy coach whips out there that are black, that are, the normal one is going to be that like tannish color, or the Western, the pink ones that are just pink and black and crazy. If you want to check out, I think Reptile actually took down her Instagram.
What?
Yeah. But
why?
I don't know. She just didn't want to deal with it anymore. But just why would you? People would dream of a pink ball python, but we have other pink snakes. They just aren't that nice, whatever, like attitude wise. But I think that they're really cool.
Okay, this is a great tangent.
Oh god.
Just into
my mouth's getting dry from talking so much, man.
Crack another beer. You finished that one. Oh, now Brandon's sending us a link. Oh, that's Reptile Girls. Okay, hers is a lot black.
Yeah, how sick is that? If no one can see that, it's probably the top. I think everyone can see the link. Is jet black. I'm talking about
on the podcast. We're gonna just delete all of this for the audio.
The first 25% is jet black, and then the rest is bright ass pink. It's fucking amazing. And there's just too many.
Oh, Brandon, we couldn't see the second one.
There's just too many snakes in general, like species out there, like you said, that too many get overlooked. And there's still stuff that like you can go to a show and be like, wait a second, what is that? Like I've never seen that species of snake before, and it happens, which is amazing. Or we're all of the time getting new species of snakes, and it just seems to never end, which is awesome.
Yeah. But speaking of things that do end,
Never
no, speaking of things that do end, this podcast, I'm trying to pull up our calendar to see
It
who's.
feels a lot longer when you're doing it by
when
yourself.
it's just us
right?
two. Yeah, I know.
Because it's weird. Like we're
because we're not
used
asking
to it
questions
anymore.
to well, we are, but we've gotten used to having a guest very much.
Yeah, it makes life super easy, right?
But next week, oh shit, go to today.
We're in like January right now.
Next week is Scott Borden. I don't even know who that is. You can explain that. I'm terrible. Okay.
You're not supposed to like admit that like on. You're supposed to be like, next week, Scott Borden.
Next week is the amazing, fabulous Scott Borden.
Yeah,
Joe, take it over with the about him. That's not
with the about him. Actually, it's weird. Me and Scott Borden lived in the same hometown forever, I guess. Oops. And I didn't know who he was until I didn't live there anymore. Oops. So he lives actually where I grew up. And he keeps Moluccan scrubs, which if you've never seen his scrubs, he's all right, asshole. I'm doing it. Hey, be quiet here.
I hope you get sick.
A plug, damn
I hope you get sick.
I'm trying to do a plug. He keeps Moluccan scrubs, which if you haven't seen him, it's NY Herp Revolution.
Oh,
on Instagram.
That's him. Okay,
there
yeah, I know him. He talks with and his scrubs are cool. And he posted a very beautiful white lip. Right, I can't wait to talk to him about white lips.
Shut your fucking
No,
mouth.
I'm excited now. Okay,
you are trying to get back. You are trying to earn some points.
He comments on our stuff and likes our shit, and I like almost everything he posts. I really like his stuff.
Stop.
Evan's gonna be excited that it's white lips, and what? Everyone here knows I like white lips.
Yeah, but you're sucking up now. It's getting disgusting. He keeps Moluccan. I'm trying to get into the fucking Moluccan scrubs. I haven't even got that far. And my herp revelation on Instagram, they're yellow and black, like bright ass yellow. Probably the best looking scrubs you could ever see. And he's trying to breed them. People don't really know if they're like winter breeders, spring breeders. He's just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, I think, at this point. So we're going to get a good update on if anything stuck, which is going to be fun, as well as he does have white lips. He does breed jungle carpets, all things yellow and black. And so, yeah, that will be a fun show. He also keeps a few lizard species. He's going pretty hard on social media these days, and this should be a fun time.
Brandon said he's the admin of like every Facebook group these days.
Maybe. I don't know.
Also,
well, hopefully he'll post it all in this.
Okay, Brandon says we have to spend 30 minutes talking. Okay, 30 minutes to scrubs, 30 minutes to white lips.
White rock. You hungry?
And then an hour to whatever. I am hungry. I kind of want pizza, but that means you breaking your diet. Ugh. Someone needs to make a video of how to get your boyfriend off of keto diet because it's ruining my life.
Most people don't want an overweight fat boyfriend.
I don't want an overweight fat boyfriend, but I'm over keto.
Oh my god. Well.
Okay. Chris and Marissa, thanks for finding us too.
Thank you everyone for listening, especially at the end here.
Yes.
But hey, we had fun. We will definitely talk to Scott about scrubs a lot of the time. And I mean, this is to where the scrubs are something that I really love also. So, blackhead scrubs. What are we going to do with our lives? Oh, man. We've got so much. And then I talked about all the North American shit we need. So it's like, guys, this never ends.
Okay. If you're wondering where to find us, check us out on Instagram, Port City Pythons, YouTube, Port City Pythons, Facebook, Port City Pythons. We also have our website, portcitypythons.com. Buy our t-shirts. Neither of us are wearing one today. And when we have snakes, they will go up there. Also, Gustavo, wow.
Shame.
But he changed his name. It's not GMD Reptiles anymore. I love when people change names.
This is taking a long time, huh?
Okay, sorry.
Are you gonna say how much you love Scott Borden more?
Yes, Scott Borden is the most amazing white lip breeder ever.
He has never bred white lips.
And-
Wow, you're looking like a real idiot right
Shit.
now. Oh man, embarrassing.
Oh, and he's from your town, so that makes him cooler, even though your town's lame.
I don't know what it says about people. I don't know. What do you
What,
think?
being from Fishkill?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's good and bad.
Okay, we keep saying
What are we doing?
we keep saying
Get
we're
outta
gonna
here.
go, and then
Get-
we're not.
Scram.
And we're not. Okay, bye.
Thanks,
For
guys.
real.
Later.